really got me thinking, am I actually bad at this thing that I thought I was decent at? So today's video was supposed to be a redemption for the last time I took out my Canon with the 50mm lens on it, because to be honest, last time was not really going as well as I was hoping, and I didn't really get the results that I was gunning for. So I was hoping that this time would definitely be better, but oh boy was I wrong. It did not go well at all. I even thought maybe I'm just not able to get any good photos with this setup. Or am I just a bad photographer in general and I just thought I was good at this thing, and it turns out I actually am really not. When I tried to analyze later what went wrong that day to see what I could have done maybe better to get better results, I found that there were a lot of things that actually went well. For example, I planned the route that I was going to walk, I timed it right to where the light was going to shine through the tall buildings to create nice shadows. It wasn't too empty and it wasn't too busy, but for some reason I did not get the shots that I wanted to get. So I thought I'm going to let you guys be part of my struggle from a POV perspective, and also give you a little bit of a voiceover and let you know what I was thinking in the moment of preparing a shot or taking a photo. So let's get into the video. So the first thing that I did is walk up to the Benjamin Franklin Bridge. I wanted to see what the light actually looks like and get my settings right, in case anything surprises me and I want to capture it. And this is the first shot that I got. Nothing special at all, but it's the first shot. Then I made my way up to the bridge itself, and I noticed that the sun was shining right through the middle of it and illuminating the right side of the street. So I tried to take that to my advantage and frame up another shot. Then I noticed that the train was coming through and I tried to frame that up, but it was just not working out and I did not take the photo after all. Next, I had an idea in mind that I wanted to shoot for a little while, which was having the train coming in on the lower right side of the frame and then have the skyline in the back. But then I noticed there was this type of roofing right underneath the railing, which I thought was not there before, but maybe I'm mistaken. But either way, I thought it would mess up the shot and it would just not work out in this angle and at that time. So I moved up to a different shot that I had in mind, which was just a couple of steps further up. Here my goal was to use the repeating lines of lanterns that are going up into the distance, and I wasn't happy with the first shot, so I waited a little longer to get another one because I wanted to have a tiny silhouette at the end of the frame. These two shots gave me a little bit of hope for the day because they actually turned out well, and then I noticed another train was coming, so I leaned over the railing to get another shot. And this here is actually a really good example of a great location where the light is shining in and creating great shapes, as you can see right here. So I thought I used that to my advantage, and I wanted to post up to see if I can get somebody walking through the light and create a silhouette to make an interesting frame. But this one did not turn out well at all because the cars that are lined up right there were just too distracting. I did still try to make it work. As you can see here, I'm trying to move my camera, seeing if I can find a frame, but it just didn't work out in this case. While I was walking up the street, I noticed that on the right side there was a light casted onto the building, which I thought was pretty interesting, so I walked a little further up and held my camera up to see what it would actually look like in camera, and I decided to post up a little bit, wait, and use the fishing technique to basically wait for the right subject to walk through the frame. And it did take a while for the right subject to walk through the frame. I probably spent around 10 to 15 minutes waiting, and I walked up and down a couple of times to check if there was actually anybody coming through, but eventually the right subject presented itself. After a little bit of walking, I noticed that there was a breakfast place on the other side and there was a lady sitting right in front of the window, so I decided to come over and try to get a shot, kind of like basically shooting blind. I was holding the camera in front of my chest and taking multiple photos while I was walking by. Then I noticed this kind of multi-level bridge in the distance, which was connecting two buildings, and I saw people crossing from one side to the other, and I thought it would be cool to get one person silhouetted walking from one side to the other. And slowly but surely, things are starting to fall apart a little bit. I found a great location here. I was waiting for a dad and his kid to walk by because I saw them right behind me. But at the last minute, they actually changed sides too early to avoid that steam, which it would have been perfect if they would have walked right past it or through it. Instead, I had to make an adjustment and took this photo. In this scenario, I knew there was a person sitting right in the sunlight that you're gonna see in a moment, and I used a technique to distract a little bit from my appearance. I pretended like I was going to take a photo of this colorful garage over there, then I crossed the street and I turned around to frame up the person sitting in the bright sunlight, and this actually turned out to be one of the better shots from the day. While I was standing there, I saw on the other side there was a Starbucks and there was a person sitting right in the window. So I adjusted my settings and walked over there and again shot blindly and didn't notice that my shutter speed was a little too low, so I had to deal with some motion blur in this photo. Then I decided it was time for some coffee to warm up, but before I went in to get one, I got this shot. With a warm coffee in my hand and my camera in the other, I kept walking around and I saw these Chili's across the street and I thought the way the light hits it is interesting. So I was waiting for somebody interesting to walk through the frame again, but I kept waiting and waiting and nobody interesting enough to make the frame was showing up. Right at this point I decided, okay, now I'm gonna start making my way back to the car. And then I noticed or discovered this indoor market that I didn't know was there before. So I checked it out inside and it's definitely a location that I'm going to come back to. But this time there were already too many people there and I didn't really get any shots other than this one. And then, oh my goodness, there were these two older ladies and they would have made a great subject. But in this scenario, it just didn't work out. I decided to hit up the Chinatown area real quick and saw this gentleman in a suit, and I was watching him to see what he was going to do and was hoping for him to try to go inside. On my way out, I saw there was a small group of people walking in front of me, so I tried to frame up the Chinatown gate with the people in the foreground. Here I noticed that this gentleman was crossing the street, and I saw that on the other side there was an interesting patch of light, and so I was waiting for him to walk into it, and I chose a lower angle to get this shot. It felt like that this morning was a lot of hard work to try to get a shot, and every time I took one, it wasn't all the way perfect, or at least didn't come out the way I wanted it to be. Alright, now you saw the struggle of that morning, and it really got me thinking, am I actually bad at this thing that I thought I was decent at? And after some thinking, I realized something. I actually did everything from my side to set myself up for success. I planned the route that I was going to walk, and I made sure the day or the time is not too busy and also not too empty. The weather was great because it was just bright sunshine, which was perfect for what I wanted to do. And the time of the day was also great because the sun was at a point where it was shining through the buildings and casting nice shadows and creating awesome scenes. My gear was ready to go. I had full batteries, empty memory card, and everything was set up to where I was ready to go out and immediately take photos. But there was one thing that I didn't have any control over, and that was my surroundings. I had no control over how many people would actually be out at that time in the morning, and definitely not if they were going to walk through my frame when I wanted them to walk through my frame. And that made me remember that it's actually typical for photography, especially for street photography. You will have good days and you will have bad days. Sometimes you have more good days than bad days, and sometimes it's the other way around. You never know what you're gonna get, and I think it's really important to remember that. And what a good photographer would do in this scenario is to take the L and learn from the mistakes, and then try to improve and take what didn't work out and turn it into something that can help you next time while out shooting, so you don't make the same mistake again. And what a bad photographer would do in this scenario is to fall into a depressive state, put down the camera and let it drag you down and not touch it for weeks or even longer than that. Now keep in mind, these are not facts. This is 100% my personal opinion, and if you have a different one, please make sure that you share it with everybody in the comments down below. I would love to hear your take on that. So after 2 disappointing shoots with this setup, will I ever take it out again? And the answer to that is 100% yes. If anything, it motivated me even more to give it more tries and learn every single time something new that will help me to handle this setup and make the most out of my time out on the streets or wherever I am. Because fact is that you can learn every single time when you're out shooting. If it's a good day or a bad day, you can always take something away from it that will help you in the future to be an even better photographer. And that brings us to the end of today's video. I hope you enjoyed seeing me struggle. If you did, hit that like button. If you have any questions, please put them down in the comments below. And if you're not subscribed to the channel yet, I would love to have you on the team. And there's nothing else to say, then I will see you in the next one. Peace.